So there's a conspiracy theory for Wuthering Waves? Or is he talking about his own conspiracy theory of Wuthering Waves? That must be it, right? Let's go ahead and see what he's even talking about. What are you talking about?
People called me a conspiracy theorist about Wuthering Waves.
All
They
right.
said I was a blasphemer, I was a liar, but I was right. I was right about the ping. Now, this might
Da
seem
ping.
I might seem kooky, but I noticed very early on there is something wrong with the servers of this game and the inputs of this game, and I was right.
Okay, I guess so. But you know what? I also noticed that there was something wrong with the game. The fact that my stuff was laggy, and that even though even though it's like my area on my server, it's still at 100 ms for some odd reason.
At least other people are starting to come to light and bring these things to light and talk
I
about them.
literally left comments
Now,
on it a long time
I
ago.
understand that Wuthering Waves has some amazing things, but the combat is so punishing that if you miss a dodge, you can take some incredible amounts of damage or even get...
That's very true. You can get wombo comboed to death. Well, for certain moves against bosses, but like base enemies, you don't really get wombo comboed, but it still hurts and it sucks, and you always have to have a healer on the team.
one shot. So pressing the button and the button not registering and doing the dodge feels bad. And I noticed it over and over again. And people were like,
You
"Hey,
know,
just
maybe the reason why a lot of people don't notice what he noticed for the dodge of the button is for the fact that like it's probably so it's probably for like those that have like good what's it called, reaction time, and they can see the difference. For me, I play on like 60 FPS for instance, and I'm super duper like slow reaction, so like when I click I'm like it's gonna take like probably a quarter of a second, right? But I'm sure for them it's like 1/8 of a second and they'll notice, so maybe that's why they noticed this latency thing.
missed your dodge." No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I pressed the button. I know in my soul I pressed that button, and I didn't dodge. Now,
You know, isn't there an easy way to like solve this problem? Pretty sure there's like an overlay software where it shows like your keyboards and stuff whenever you're pressing buttons, right? So if you were to say you pressed it and it like showed on screen, but the character didn't do it, then wouldn't that kind of also prove it too?
I want to preface this clip I'm about to show you because it's a completely different game. But I used to be a very competitive shooter player. Back in high school, I would go and I would travel around and play in Halo 3 tournaments. I'd play online. I
Wow.
was a very high-ranked gamer.
Wow.
And then I got old.
Then I got old. Story of my life. I used to be a great gamer like you guys in the Gen Z, but then I got old, and I also took an arrow to the knee. Yeah, I'm taken.
I could tell in PUBG, all right? This is Shroud, okay? Michael is a great player. His name is Michael as well. He is one of the best players in the world.
Are you only saying that because his name's also Michael? No, I'm just kidding. I see Shroud like top of the charts on like Twitch and stuff, and everyone's like praising his name. Although every time I go to watch him, I see him like clapping his own cheeks against like an enemy, going too far in.
He's a CSGO pro. This guy is way better than me. He is way better than 99% of people. And he is decimating everyone in this lobby. But I knew, not because of this, but because of something that happened earlier, that this guy is not playing the same video game as me. He is playing with...
Well, yeah, he's playing whatever this is. You were playing Wuthering Waves. What are you talking about? No, I'm just...
massive advantage because of this. All right? I want to explain this because this is what's happening in Wuthering Waves. And there's a whole other post about it in Wuthering Waves talking about some of these issues. When Shroud flies in here and he goes and he picks up this gun, he drags the gun into his inventory, all the ammo into his inventory, and equips it. But for me, in Canada, I couldn't do that. I know that it sounds so stupid, but he goes like this, and he swipes all these guns in his inventory, all the ammo, and it's in his inventory, it's equipped, it's ready to go. I literally could not do that from my Canadian connection because it would, like, drop the guns out. And so,
Which is interesting, and it brings up something that I haven't thought about in a long time, which is like the tournaments of like esports and stuff. That's why a lot of the tournaments aren't hosted like over, like off a distance, and rather like in person, so everyone would be playing similarly on the same latency. I assume it's for these kind of aspects, so people can have the same advantage, so both of them can like swipe inventory as a metaphor.
anytime I played PUBG, I would get frustrated because I would go, I'm not playing the same game. I am playing a.
How crazy would that be if someone was like, they were playing, right? The moment they land, and then they try to do the swiping thing to put their stuff, but they like can't because of like a lag spike. They'll be like, oh my, I'm throwing because of lag, and then they just like quit the game and then do it again. I feel like there has to be at least one person in the world that's like that. Oh,
Scuffed version of this game. I am playing a dumbed down or trolled version of this game. I don't feel like it is competitive. And that's the exact same way I feel about the bosses in Wuthering Waves.
first off, you shouldn't feel competitive against an AI boss in Wuthering Waves. I was gonna just leave it there and not say Wuthering Waves, but I feel like Elden Ring is an exception, or Dark Souls, like roguelikes too. But a game where like you don't lose anything and you can continuously go again and again without having to like compete against other players as well. It's like it's just a challenge, that's all. So you just have to like find other ways to go through the challenge. For me, um this video I believe was released like 2 days before this recording, but like I don't really I don't spend anything in Wuthering Waves, like cash wise. I don't swipe a card or whatnot. I kind of play every day, sort of, but like casually. Like I just burn my energy because I only want to spend like 20 minutes max really on the game when there's like nothing going on. And then I like skip events from time to time. But basically, that's where my stats are, right? With those stats and my ping, mind you, I'm like at 150. I'm still caught up with the game. I don't really lose against any fights. The only ones I get my cake clapped would be the hologram fights. But that's more on me. Like I know when to dodge because of latency. I know why and when I should dodge. But it's just me pressing the wrong button. For me, it's not really lag, it's more of the process of thinking to get to it. I feel like with enough practice, you'll actually be able to overcome the latency for Wuthering Waves. When it comes to a more competitive game, no, because that's clearly an advantage. And sure, in Wuthering Waves, compared to other players, which you shouldn't be doing, by the way, compared to other players, it can be seen as an advantage. But since you're not really competing and it's just more of a challenge, you don't really need the exact same toolkit to complete the fights. I mean, I was gonna say just take a look at Crownless, but Crownless just gets beat in like different ways. He's like a meme boss fight now. So who else could there possibly be? You know, I have no idea the names of them, but No, no, it'd be a spoiler if I said it. You just have to believe me. Someone back me up in chat.
Now, there's another thing here. This guy on Wuthering Waves says, this game punishes high ping more than most multiplayer games despite being mostly a single-player experience. Calcharo.
That is the most... that is the most clickbait Reddit post I have seen in a while. Then again, I haven't been on Reddit for like 5 months, so makes sense.
Not filling his forte bar properly. I felt this all the time. I would slash, and I'd only have 2 out of 3 on the bars. Even though I hit the target, it would not work. If you use his forte game...
You know what, though? If that's the case, if you actually look, even though it hits the target, right? I noticed this for, like, other characters, too, like, oh, gosh, what's her name? I have her on the team. The Phoenix girl, Chong-Li, there we go. So you hit and like, you know her like dash forward, which it does like the double hit and then it gives you like one little forte bar. If you hit twice, there's actually a slight time period for me where it doesn't give the thing. However, if I just look at the forte bar instead of looking at the hit, the moment that it pops up, I am actually able to use it. That's my workaround for it. Instead of just like, well, because of the timing. The timing. No, it's more like wait for it to pop up but then react to it. That's how I play. That's how I get around the lag. Of course, if we're doing speedruns, then that's a different topic.
Or his ultimate, and you're doing those attacks, it wouldn't fill the bar properly, even when hitting them, because somewhere in the sauce, in the ping, it would get
somewhere
deleted.
In the sauce.
It just wouldn't register on the servers. And the same thing goes with dodging and other things. Characters will randomly not dodge at all when pressing the button. The amount of people that just said...
Okay, that actually happens for me only for the fact, because you can only dodge a certain amount of times. And it's kind of on like a cooldown. Even if you were to dodge once, wait a little bit, and then dodge a second time. By the time the third dodge comes around, your fourth dodge still might not be up. So that one's more harder to tell.
Skill issue. No!
It's a skill issue.
Game. It is 100% the server.
You are literally blaming it on lag. There are ways around it if you want to complete stuff. I mean, sounds like an excuse, but that sounds more like an excuse. To be honest, like, if it's too hard, they could nerf the bosses. If the latency is an issue and it's more of like a IRL thing where, you know, it would cost too much to lower the latency, they could just lower the enemy instead. That's like I feel like that would honestly be a better fix for now until they can, like, I want to say quote unquote afford it, because, you know, gotcha game, afford, haha. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
I've played, like, on LAN, I have played online, I have played against some of the best players in the world, where a tiny advantage matters, and I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones.
Well, then you need to stop taking the unicorn powder, buddy. You need to just, like, chill out, because Wuthering Waves is not one of those games.
Feel in the middle of a tournament that my jump button had a tiny little grain of sand in, a little grain of hair. There's a cat hair shoved in there, and it wasn't quite activating. I could snip it out, and I could.
It's getting weird.
Right
It's kind of getting weird.
The ping, there's been something wrong. And the other big one of the main mechanics of the game, is the parrying. Parrying with characters have short parry frames, like Calcharo, becomes almost impossible. Now, there is a couple things here. It's based on the animation a little bit, so certain animations are better. Verena, Gion, some of them have these crazy easy parries.
Actually, for me, I struggle with Verena when it comes to parry. Are you kidding me? I can't even parry with her. I'd have better luck parrying with the gunslinger.
But there were times where I would sit there, I would watch that animation and I would click it. I would test it and it just wouldn't work. I would do it absolutely perfectly. I would go into the crownless fight. I would not even try to dodge. I would not have any music on. I would sit there and just press parry and it would not work. I could tell it early on. I could tell it a couple hours in, and then 100 hours into the game I said, this is broken. This
Honestly, I think it's also the speed of the character's animation, like the character you're using for the hit for the parry. That's honestly another thing I'm thinking about. I always thought the parry was more because you had to hold down the heavy attack button, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe you could just do it with light attacks. For Chong Li, for instance, I was able to do it with her skill. I don't know what the skill's called, but the one where like she dashes around at super speed while hitting. That one's a very good and easy one to use as a parry. Also, like, when I just click on her, like I use the clicking, like the regular left click light attacks, I don't mess up on parries too often, but when I do, it's more because like I already swung or I swung too late. It doesn't matter how fast I click and stuff. They just like have this window where it's kind of open, where like during the swing, if the swing is already like near the end, it will hit me on this side, and then it doesn't count as a parry. It's like it kind of has to connect, which is weird. Like the circle has to be at like a good spot, and then the animation has to hit it at the right time like that. And some are much slower than others, or some are too fast.
is not functioning properly, and getting one shot by a boss because of it made me angry. And other people just, it's like they just called it skill issue and they would just call me a complainer. But the more I played the game, the more I would get frustrated because it's like, this doesn't feel fair. I did the thing I was supposed to do. I should win. I should parry them. I should dodge. I should be alive right now. And every time it happened, it was this little thing in my brain saying, this isn't right. This isn't smooth. There's something wrong here.
I will say, I'm pretty sure there's some echoes that allow you to parry, and there's some echoes where like you can pretty much parry a parry, or like parry an attack, so you don't take much or if any damage. And heck, there's even some echoes where you could just like dodge completely. Like there's so many different ways you can handle the situation, to be honest. And I feel like trying to handle it the same way for everyone is probably not the way to go. I'm pretty sure that's not how the game is designed.
And I'm glad that other people are recognizing this. Now, there's one thing I want to discuss is in this post, he talks about ping, 150 plus ping. It isn't just that. Now, I'm not going to pretend I'm a pro Valorant player, but I am a very good pro-ish level.
You know what I noticed about Valorant? Ping is most important plus frames, because you can have two people lined up, right, side by side, but you'll notice like in a recording, one person can see the person than the other one does, which is really weird, even if they're faced the same direction. And that has to do with like some weird tech issue.
Shooter player overall. Any game I play, I can pull off shots like that. Even though I suck arguably at Valorant compared to a pro player, there are moments where my aim shines compared to the average person, and people go, huh, this guy's cooking. And I understand that in the world of Valorant, there's lots of guys.
It almost
that
feels
have
like
great
fluid
aim,
motion
but
capture.
I noticed very early on, Valorant servers suck. Being a Canadian player, it is so obvious that I'm at a disadvantage over other people that I even tested it. I played against a friend from Texas who's closer to the servers, and we filmed strafing out, and he would strafe out and shoot me before I could see him on the screen. Now,
Exactly, that's what I was talking about.
And there's going to be different things like that, but we did a bunch of tests at different angles, and it is insane how much of an advantage he had over me. And so even though in the game you might not have 150 ping, like this guy is saying here, he's saying 150 ping, it doesn't matter. Because in Wuthering Waves, I only have, 60, 70, 80 ping on some of the streams or some of the days, and it still feels terrible. Because depending on where you live and the location.
If I were to stream Wuthering Waves, my ping would be around 400, and I could still play. But when it comes to boss fights, I would try to just avoid parrying altogether, to be honest. Unless I had unless it's like right now and I have Chong-Li, and you just kind of know what's gonna come up, because the bosses kind of attack in a pattern. I don't know if you guys noticed that. So you kind of know when a parry is gonna happen before you even see like the thingy. I don't know. That might just be me. And like, yeah, what I was saying is I would use her skill, because that thing, even if I'm like late by a whole second, that thing lasts for like a whole second. So it works out in my favor, to be honest. Still sucks though.
It is not registering inputs. In this video here, just tapping the button for this guy, sometimes it will summon the whole thing in. It would happen all the time with my Mort. I would try to just tap the herring, and then I'd go into the flying summon mode because it would register as like a long input, even though I just tapped the button.
Actually, for me, I understand where he's coming from, but actually I found out that what ended up happening for me is, instead of holding the long input, there's actually another input that makes you start flying. If you were to tap the echo and then left click or right click, what ends up happening is actually you still go into flight mode. Just thought I'd put that out there.
There's all sorts of little hijinks like that where you're pressing a button and it's just not reacting properly. Because if you're quick tapping and you're trying to do the multiple hit combo, because of the delays.
Oh, also, like, if you quick tap the echo as well, it still counts as like going into the flight mode.
It's just registering it as one single push. It's not differentiating those buttons. And so I don't know all that goes into it, but I've known for a long time that Wuthering Waves had something that was just a little bit off, just a little weird. And I'm glad that I'm not crazy. Reading through the comments.
Speaking of crazy, doesn't he kind of look like the younger Terrorizer? Do you know? I don't even know if you guys know who Terrorizer is, but if you do, doesn't he kind of look like the slightly younger version of him?
There's other people that are like, yeah, no, I get this as well. There's probably going to be other people that just won't agree and call it skill issue, and that is what it is. But when I'm fighting a boss,
it'd be really funny if he's older.
And I have to parry, and I have to click it perfectly so that I don't die, and it doesn't register, I just don't want to play the game anymore. I just don't. And when I play a game like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, when I miss a dodge...
Wow, that's funny that he would also bring up the thing I was talking about. I don't have to say this part again because I already said my piece, so we're just going to continue on.
I missed the dodge. I understand every time it's a skill issue, and I do not question it. Every time I die in Elden Ring, I might go, oh my god! But I also...
Okay, tell me about the backstabs and whatnot. Tell me when it's like another player. You gotta tell me it's not latency then too?
No, it was my fault. The attack might be BS. It might have a crazy attack window, but I always know when I'm going to press dodge, I will dodge, and it will work 100% of the time. I never ever question it in that game. I have never even considered, oh, the button didn't work. Not even once.
I mean, if it's not latency issues, you could just be like, the game hiccuped here because it's poorly optimized. Am I right?
So yeah, I'm not crazy.
That's the perfect spot to end this. Oh, all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this, my thoughts and opinion as well. I'm sure this is gonna get a lot of hate, as the per usual for whenever it comes to our favorite games. I don't really have a favorite game, to be honest. I kind of just play whatever I feel like at the time, so I guess that's what's different between me and the ones that follow. Am I right? Well, anyways, I'll see you guys later with more Wuthering Waves. Hopefully, more good news, more fun news, and less conspiracies. Alright. Peace.